Rustam Abdrakhimov and Alexander Liubushkin will tell us about Live Universal Interface. Dear colleagues, some time ago we were invited to join the project where we had to create web forms for the screens. And these forms had to be changed when talking to the client while accepting these forms. So we tried to find the tools. We couldn't find it externally, but we find this internally. And this instrument was inside of other product, which was for a long time, and it was on scale. And for a year, it took us a year to bring this instrument as a separate product and to introduce it to Postgres. And we are going to tell you what actually happened. What's the main purpose of this instrument is to create the user interface for industrial systems, and the following principles are used as the base of with a declarative approach. What does it provide to us? That's unification of the screen forms or interfaces. How do we reach to this? We need to know the SKU or lower level of entrance. That's the collective development. All is done by the developers, has to be kept in the database where it is actually stored, and a necessary modification is reached with the industrial working system without downtime and without compilation. The introduction of this version can be done fully without with the realization of the methodology of development and operations. So of course we support all the main browsers and mobile devices and desktops. How do we see the applications? This is business and this is public sector, where the interface does not have some complex requirements like for advertisement placement, for digitals placement, where the information has to be clear, intuitively clear to understand. For the user should understand how he can use this application in order to get to what he wants to receive. So this is a corporate system, some business cabinets, like personal cabinets and so on. So what is the main concept of this? For all of us working with this or that system, we face the following templates: the lists, the grid, the tree, forms, and the tables or the templates. And each of these forms has the number of elements: the rows, the columns, the fields, and these elements, they have the features: the style of visualization, the clarity, the necessity of data, prompt, hint, and so on. There's a big number. So all of these features can be calculated. And for this calculation, we only need SQL. How does it work? The CloudNet browser sends the event to visualization server, where we have embedded web server and the instrument of editing styles. Plus it sends to the server of applications, integration with external systems, and then it addresses to the database. Why? In order to read this or that screen module from the Postgres table and send the command for the visualization that something has to be changed in the browser. Apart from that, server of application opens not only the connection Postgres with the description of the form, but also the necessary number of connections with application databases. These are distributed ones: this Postgres, Oracle, MySQL, and others. The server of applications also play the role of integrator with external applications for connected applications that are needed to generate the reports, to make some operational system commands, and so on. This is what is given in the upper square. These are the components of these instruments. We can continue about the quality of the developed applications. There are many features that they have, but the main ones we're going to talk about. So this is the list of the sessions in Postgres. It has the header, toolbar for the active actions, frequent actions. The list of the columns can be fixed without scrolling, the horizontal columns. Then we have the area of with the fields with a big text. Let's say this is, for instance, the selector, and this area of for filling in can be few of such fields. On the left side, this is the classifier of the rows or the lines, and then the total column for the total figure. Then we need to mention query by example language, query by example, QBE. And this list we need to get from the query mode, and then we see the criteria in a line. They are put together with E and with LUI, and then this query can be a very complex one. The system will pick up the lines that according to the given criteria. There is a system of sorting. Of course, it is created by the developer, but the user can change them. If you click on the name of the column, it gives you the possibility to sort and visualize with the help of these indicators and based on the USQL or other distributed system. What are the columns that are visualized? The order is given by the developer, but as I've said, there is an instrument for the user to change the order of the columns, or even placing from one place to another and then turning off and on the visualization. Or the adapting of the forms for the needs of the user. For instance, the criteria of the forms for sorting can be saved for its own configuration, so the final user says the following: this is my list of the agreements, I'm going to work with them, I compile these agreements and I want to save this configuration and to come to this instead of other standard ones. As for geometric sizes, the windows, the tables, they also can be set up by the user with the help of the mouse. And I save the next time he comes to the system, it will be the same. So we decided not to calculate the adaptation to the screen and so on and so forth. It is better for the user to do it on his own. This is what we do according to the practice. If it's a new user, then the setups are read for the last changes. So it will look up for the last setups that were made, and then the final user can adapt for his own needs. Different browsers, some like big letters, some people who have bad sight, they use big letters. So it's very individual. The action that the developer can program in the screen forms, it can with SQL or other commands or I/O, and open URL, upload file, download file, retrieve some reports, and they have different levels, different forms, different level of the group of lines, the cells, and different, the toolbar, local menu, system menu, the menu of the columns, and there is another action which is done automatically and allows to build up relations with master and detail. There is one form and another for the staff. Some of the actions are set up by timer and they allow to update the status of the screen when you do the uploading. They have a very wide infrastructure. One of the elements of infrastructure is when we get the queries and give the list of the errors. When something happens to the server, we call up for the procedure, and this procedure shows you the message to the user. So with that application, we have reference book where you can look up for that query, and this can be done by the command. And in Postgres we have such structure to visualize the messages.
There's also a possibility to intercept external inclusions and messages. For this, there is a special interception field for the SQL error. And in this case, in this reference book, you will have a message not about the primary key error, but just the error about the message, about the user. This user already exists, you shouldn't input it. Next comes the support of national languages. Initially, when applications are created in this tool, it is monolinguistic, it's on only one language, source language, but you can add other languages, and the logon form will give you an opportunity to choose the language you will use while talking to the application. There is also the support of multilingual text, and in this case these texts are being split into fields, in this case 2 fields by the number of used languages. It is done automatically without any participation of the developer. Also, the opportunity of data quality control by data, by timestamp, and you can also input your own custom controls based on SQL language statements. And for some field, you can get such alert if you did the wrong input of data. Applications can be supplemented with administration tools, allowing to introduce groups of users and introduce write objects and activities to be done with these objects, and provide the rules for these objects and for these activities. An example of such objects is interface elements. It's possible to limit a user group, to deprive something or to give some rights to display fields, columns, making actions, pushing buttons, and so on and so forth. If we speak about database connections, first we should say that one application can have several connections with different types of databases, with Postgres, with Oracle, with MySQL, and so on. These connections are named connections. Names are being done by the developer, and then if you open a list, take a look in the Postgres, and the activity which is made in toolbar is done in Oracle, or the table is located in Postgres, and the other table of employees, for instance, in Oracle. Transaction mode is supported. Short transactions are supported when the events are being processed in one transaction and automatic commit is set. Every SQL is finished with a commit. And the long transactions when it's a program-based commit and under control of the developer. Long transactions are good not only for systems which are good for massive routine processing, but also very convenient to build up wizards. When one screen form is the beginning of the wizard, then comes next step, and so on. And if this data input in these dates will not be stored in your database, So you will have to drag them as parameters, which is not convenient for a programmer. And here there's an opportunity to insert them into long transactions. And if something goes wrong, then you can an opportunity to roll it back. Also, a locking opportunity. For instance, two users are competing for editing the client card, and you can get such messages that this record is already edited by a different user, and the name of the user who captured this for editing is also displayed. Applications are supplemented by instance lists, because a connection should even fail, or there could be vice versa, several connections. And these are the sessions. You can send a message. Administrator can tell leave the system because I'm going to reboot, or you can forcibly delete these sessions. Speaking about the quality of the development environment, we must say that this environment is created using the same tool, and the editor of the forms for the developer looks like the same application and is considered as an application for this application server. We see that some properties are being edited of some screen form, and it's very indicative. It shows a lot about the quality of the product, and the high availability also is there. You shouldn't set any special means on the PC of the developer. Everything is available in the cloud through web. Shared development is also supported. Everything is stored in the database. Automatically, all issues are solved with blocking and with better quality than working with files. There are also envisioned roles. An architect can create applicable systems, and the developer can take part in the development of either of applicable systems. And version management is supported. It's possible to disable version control. It's possible to use it in a mode when only one form on one developer. And the most popular and common mode is when we capture the form by one developer, and then later you can invite someone else. And you can develop this form together. The red tag is not edited, green is free, different color coding. Versions of forms are stored. You can restore versions. You can study old version, compare it versus any other version, also the current one. Issue of changes is only about script generations. You can generate microscripts, for instance, related to a certain property of an element. You can edit the whole form, or you can carry out massive generation with the parallel saving on versions for a further release. The system has also the debugging tools, which includes enabling debugging. You shouldn't stop, you shouldn't recompile, and then you can also make the study of activities done by system and see all the internals of the system, what activities were done, what SQLs were made, what replacements were done. There's also another important debugging tool is the application dump, where on a certain special browser tag you can see the status of all elements, of all variables, all screen forms, all dependencies. You can see the field visibility determined by different factors and options. Also execution time, amount of computations, which is a very important tool for a developer and for the support service. Style editor is also available, allows to adopt screen forms for corporate colors, corporate styles. Here the form is try to edit it and bring it to some military style. Summing up, we can say that we have a lot of properties there which we like, but what prevents us from getting rid of this tool, and why are we going to use it in future? Very low entry threshold. It's enough just an SQL for the person to start developing. Availability. I can continue develop from any device, from any entry point. Shared character, everything is stored in one database. Version control is there. To roll up a release, you shouldn't stop your production system. You shouldn't recompile it. You shouldn't reset it. You just release the version, generate scripts, and that's all. Debugging tools, an opportunity to see online and take a look at other sessions, control some errors there, and it simplifies a lot the interaction between the client service, between IT of the client and our support service, because you just have to send us a log and we can see everything. And the quality of applications, they don't have no tags and stickers, but they have very important pillars, query by examples, multi-connect, setting for user, and rules management, and many other things. Scalability, the tool is built on a modular basis. Main module is server of instances, the database with the server part, and the application server. In the application server, meta language is used, PGSQL or Perl or other, and all these modules, mailings, SMS sending, are registered as plugins. You can write as many as you want, and it means scalability. Scalability is at all three levels: database, application server, instance server, and several associations. So one server is responsible for mobile devices, the other for desktops. What are our plans? We hope that scheduled procedures or tasks will be done, which will include the massive processing of a leading query, and for every line of the query you should do something, not in the base but in the file system, or send some email. We will make such scheduler, and we hope that we will finish it by spring. Opportunity to attach files. We already almost finished with this, and we will release it next week. Upload, download, and what are our plans closer to summer are clickable charts, which means forms in the form of bar pile diagrams, curves, but clickable, which is important. And metrics in endless Excel spreadsheet. On X you place one query, on Y, on Y another query. What about the availability of the product? The demo versions can be found under these addresses. You can download it and install the tool from LUI-force.ru. If you have questions, please write us emails under this address. And now I'm ready to handle your questions, please. I hope my colleague is also ready to answer. Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question. Does your toolkit contain any functions for test automation of applications? Maybe you have some recording or playing back tools for the controls in order to check the quality of what was developed. You mean to record tests? Well, can you specify? You want the system to design it. Yes, the user will input something and then press it. Yes, your developers make some forms, logical connections between the data, and so all the activities which the user can do in this form, it would be desirable to cover with all possible tests to understand whether it works or not. We have such idea in our plans. This tool, as any system, has a set of standard tests. We have a tester, and he is the owner of these standard tests. We would like to make a macro to be able to write user activities for standard testing after release is issued, and to play it back in a player. Yes, we do have this plan, but it's gonna be testing by writing certain macros. Have we answered to your question? Thank you. It's very interesting. As far as I understand, the application server is written on Perl, isn't it? No? Well, and what languages of plugins can be used? Plugins are written on Java. And what can you revoke in these plugins? Well, anything. So application server is written on Java, plugin also, but anything can be used as a container. Anything which can be connected to Java can be connected here. And my second question, sorry to interrupt you, and how do you link the right providing for visual elements for the user with the providing rights to objects in the database? A good question. Every group of users receives an SQL code which needs to be executed when you include this user in the group. And what is there in this SQL? What grunt role is written there? It is not our business. We provided the security at the designer level, administrative level, and we have such roles in our database: admin, designer, developer. When a new developer is included, certain grants are provided for the database. Well, that's clear, but I can understand. The user sees a number of objects in the group. We reached the policy of the records. It's an applicable role where the user, along with the rights for the basis and for the interface, can see a certain cut of the data in the applicable segment. If it's realized, it's really interesting. It's really interesting. In the majority of cases, since the user don't have the direct access to data, the end user, we mean the end user, he can get these rules over the interface elements, whether it's possible to push a button or not, can he see this column or not, but he doesn't have no rights in the database. Since he is in the part of the group, in a role, sooner or later he will reach the database. The user is not necessarily an individual. It can be a robot or a next-door system. It's also clear. It's a different story. I wanted to add that all rights are given exclusively through the group. It's only role-based access. Thank you very much. Very interesting. You showed record filtering on your first slides, and you showed the query by example filtration. Do you have any other mechanisms of filtering records apart from that, using statements of date more than indicated and line through contains or not equal? You saw only a small part of It's possible to realize more or less, including between. It's just shown in a human language. What is offline, if we let offline, given some rules, you can use research queries, so-called hash queries. A hash then is just the current, means the current column, and you can attach any SQL statement there. Of course, it's not necessary to give to everyone, because otherwise you will have SQL injections. It's written SQL statements, select something and %, right? On your slide. Can you take a look? Where in this form I should indicate that the one contains and not indicator. There are explicit and implicit operator. Here implicitly we see it like, if you want equal, write equal sign in the beginning, and even given the percentage you will have equal. And for numbers, more or less not equal. Could you explain, please? I opened your site. Where is the download button? You claim that you can get it there, but no link. Please go to the delivery tag. One small question, please. Thank you. As a web designer, it turns out that you have to know only SQL, but still the new view is done by you. You make the style for end user. It would be just a black box. And if in an application we want to make a query not to the server of your application, but to somewhere outside, it means then loss of control. Behavior starts to go by the system and bypassing the system. It's not recommended still. This is an application for big industrial systems where we do not orient on those who make social media or some end-user-oriented things. But we need a widget, dates and calendar limited with something 2 weeks. So I should either go to you asking you to do it, or I should do it. There is a widget like this. Just invent a different one. If you put me on schedules at some point of time, we can, just in a few words, we realize the principle of role splitting. Business logic developers, they work only with this instrument. They say what they want to do and how to do it. It's up to so-called engine developers. We have such developers. They check the quality. If the quality is not good, they improve it. Since everything is open, you can fine-tune and debug these engines. For instance, you don't like the calendar. It's not modern. It's bad. So you write your own calendar and you integrate it into your engine. When I discuss it with Evgeny, with my colleague, who is not present here, he is dealing with the development of external interaction with browser. There is a thing which we want to enter into the protocol, and using this protocol we can give out to the browser anything we want. Now this topic is closed. This step is closed for the time being. But we want to provide this opportunity, although we are afraid that they will be abused. And the column organization of grids, which is used on desktops, or a line-based organization of grids on mobile devices, will just disappear and will just fail. And this will come to claims to us, and it will be then up to the designer who invented it. Yes, it's possible to saw out, to provide this access, but it will be hard to close it. Well, is it an open source or a commercial product? How do you position it? We don't want to earn on licenses if we speak about earning. We just share our experience here. And we will not earn on license. The free of charge version is available. We're gonna release it. But but we can earn on learning, on training, maybe on implementation, adaptation, technical support. As for the open source, so far it is not open. Maybe we will reach the state when it's going to be open. But it was done very quickly to make it open and in a proper way, you should understand. Well, we can't just do it in a very dirty and unpleasant way. But the code is debugged, we rewrote it, and the tool which the how to say, the predecessor was done more than 20 years ago. The core is fine-tuned. We just rewrote it from one code to Java to Postgres for PGSQL. We rewrote engines, but the logic and the concept protocols are still the same. The concept is wonderful. The final question about continuous integration. You have your process, which is more or less understandable, but if I want to write ahead some patterns, some letters to update, how it fits with your application. Shall I use some batches? If you have your letters, is it the database data or is it a third-party code, not in the database? So it's clear. Well, serious applications, they are multi-component applications. And you insert this from your program code, and you should embed it and insert it very carefully somewhere in your system. Java or something else. Here you should see. Let's discuss it offline. Thank you very much.